Hello, Fox News. You guys had a story that I put a link to it with a teacher, and she's making opinions about why the kids have problems with reading and things like that. There are clearer than day organized crime methods and acts that involved also the names at and next to the campuses I went that will tell you. A whole bunch of people tied to former director of the FBI, who are the same ones who had time collusions with Saudi families and their difference before and after the World Trade Center attack, and as their roles interstates and internationally, with and as names at the World Trade Center and spots next to it, including the court, including names on both sides of that case, their sources, and the court itself involved with predicate acts against me, with those names where they're attached to with the people that are forging and switching names, with a bunch of different falsified police reports for the same arrest, and then again with other arrests, they did the same thing, and they refuse any of the, and they make confessions tied to that, and they just put a charge with no writing and make confessions about switching officer names, leaving records that are totally fake, collusion/s, with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and various natures of federal criminals, and collusions they have with people with elderly homes, child campuses, and names next to them, the same ones next to fire campuses and medical campuses. Increasingly, people tied to a former mayor, Gold, and other mayors planted fake evidence as fake ties to me by acting and having people take a picture, apparently. I had nothing to do with communication. I had no response to them verbally. A Mark Violet, uh, a Danielle Perron, and other people, Kevin Knisley, Justin Klavinskis, others with some black KKK Confederate flag themed interreligious spots and names next to them. Has something to do with all along Route 3 and a neighbors of Mark Violet, where they used to live and where they live now, or you know, people with Weathersfield police chiefs retired, involved with some black KKK Confederate flag theme, Latino theme. Further involved with some rape threats on my street, also with the digital and between it too. Some people tied to making swerving on a bike on my street after all right, and then after that, and making the names of one of the people they put me in fake conversations with about in the fake transcripts they pretended. A whole bunch of people that work at Hartford Hospital have roles with a Ray Colal and a Timothy O'Brien, and their family members also with the same names as other, with a whole and a Smith family with people at Hartford Hospital involved with some child abusers, leaders of kids. Now, and people with digital crimes with some judges and prosecutors speaking fake things and delusions in records and sequence shifts and collusions with sexual and medical offenders of kids. They put fake conversations with me too. There's also, in other words, so we need to get them on paper. I swear to God, I never, under oath, I never had a conversation with the Leahy family. I had one word sarcastically to the Brendan Leahy after I believe I assume it was a Brendan Leahy because I heard the father of a Brendan Leahy and other Leahys. I don't know the names of them. They're involved, recorded anyways, and collusions with a Brian Silver and a whole bunch of people in the Britain Superior Court with digital crimes with the kids, digital crime methods, predicate acts with the kids, time collusions with various natures of criminal enterprises and private ones at the same time with their family members and the family members of Interbranch with the foreign and domestic medical families putting fake transcripts in their databases, fake conversations and ties to kids and adults. WFSB, Connecticut's Channel 3 News, fake conversations and ties to me, to doctors when I was a kid that weren't at all. So I could have been diagnosed with a mental condition. They put fake ties and fake nature ties to me, do little tricks to pretend I knew. I had conversations with doctors as a kid, too. To my family, who would tell you I never had ties to a psychiatrist when I was a kid. A Leahy family is increasingly involved with people that made confessions tied to that involved with predicate acts on my street with them planting evidences with judges and prosecutors. People with the name Brian Silver, involved with Connecticut's District Court and Connecticut's the Britain Superior Court with sexual and medical offenders of kids. And they put the people in fake conversations with their family members and about them as ones involved with the kids. Their own kids are involved with this. There are men and women of a Leahy family at Hartford Hospital who have their daughter on Facebook with Facebook people and the FBI involved with some sexual and medical offenders of kids and more obscure pictures roles with the FBI on Twitter after the principal was put in jail for that. And I was put in jail for catching them with worse first. And they forced that. And that's recorded too. And they're hiding response in writing because this is going to get discovered. They already put me in fake writing too, where they have predicate acts methods recorded. They have wire crime acts and methods where they change in fake what's actually recorded over the phones. And they put me in fake conversations at the police station with Wethersfield police. That wasn't at all when I was a kid. And then as an adult too. And they stole my sentence to someone else at the police station as an adult, who was my Saudi friend, who's one of the ones increasingly with the Mendez police involved with the ones with the name Scalora and Mendez and police forging and switching names with sexual and medical offenders of kids. And their roles of predicate acts with names that planted evidence on all sides of my house. And they have roles with home break-ins years apart and more recent. And the differences of guilt of foreign and domestic, because there's also a hyper-foreign there, needing things like criminal foreign influences, blamed by countries A through Z. Where and how a hyper-foreign that is not names A through Z is being and has been demonstrated to humanity. Names as countries that could only be operated by the phenomenon of that could be only operated by locations, areas, and states. Still grouped with all these different countries, tactical ulterior from how nature has us directed to appreciate groupings. In other words, the counters to the things where they guys had sustained roles with sexual and medical offenders of kids, with differences, treatments, tactical ulterior from how nature communicates for them to speak for it, and for how our founders communicated for them to speak for it. And then further, how the Constitution on a bridge communicates for them to speak for it. They're preventing us from speaking about how they've been faking and changing what's actually recorded into databases on a mass scale. They are being shown, they have been shown needs to do that. Increasingly, Eric Jensen and a Mike Pandolf and a Joe DeMauro and a Ray Claw said they have a Mr. Neville, a Heather Hansen too, other boyfriend she has at the same time with Joe DeMauro and a Mike Kerr. One of them, Joe DeMauro, said it was his cousin. Now all that, and they're involved with people pretending things through the mail through time. People putting fake ties to kids, and they have roles with home break-ins in my area through time, but /S of their roles, and wire crimes of the Wethersfield police, and roles with gun crimes of the Wethersfield police with the kids, and then pretending to be about it, against it, like with increasingly a former mayor Gold, and his family and their neighbors affected confessions to me, and demonstrations of their roles with identity theft, fraud, slanders, with a whole bunch of people tied to the same house, /S involved with the Wethersfield police confessions, forging and switching names, refusing to get on paper legitimately. They've been stacking the Britain Superior Court and Hartford courts and other courts databases with these are names at the state judicial branch offices and next to it, at the state corrections offices and next to it, collusions with their classmates and their teachers too, with identity theft, fraud, slander. They don't even know people they don't even know. Some of them, they try to make fake exceptions. I never even saw him around. Joshua Julian. He's increasingly people trying to make it look like I was drinking alcohol. I wasn't even drinking alcohol. I was faking it one time when I was in 8th grade. And they know I didn't even drink alcohol. And I had like a sip of it because they were planting evidences of people with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, body dumping spots, and putting fake ties and fake natures of ties to me, like with a Joe DeMauro. And Ray Claw have roles years apart, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. There's a Jennifer Smith, and others tied to her involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and with them, and sequence shifts. And I never saw them on campus in my life. These ones involved with multiple police departments with wire crimes and predicate acts now, with the police that have brought them up too. They're lying about how they use their own names and others' names. The Fox Connecticut News just reported there was someone with the name Bedard hit and killed right when they got out of a car. There is a Christine Bedard, and there are a bunch of people. She's one of the nicer ones at one of the better human beings at New Britain Superior, probably the best, maybe the best human being at New Britain Superior Court. She still has roles with them, though. But her educators have roles with a Jonathan Maiano, too, with My Neighbors, involved with sequence shifts with a Jonathan Maiano. And in other words, various natures of federal evidence is crimes per people tied to him, too. And he demonstrated that's true with the sequence shifts and switching what he says and said to me different times. There are proofs that he has rules of investigations, investigators planting evidences, changing and faking things and motives. Increasingly, Jonathan Maiano has roles with a whole bunch of people with the houses and businesses next to Harvard Hospital, too. Involved with his educators with identity theft, fraud, slanders with him, sequence shifts. His roles with the news, too, and intelligence next to them. Increasingly involved with 3 spots at the end of the Borough Turnpike and the intelligence and the locations next to the Connecticut News locations. Other journalists and their family members, and the difference of that and or the public television has roles with Russia and Ukraine, and their roles with differences with Americans, criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions, or I want pretending passions and emotions too, as how they get away with it. Keeping other things, others ourselves, forced blame for things that nature itself and that our founders communicated for us to blame on the human factual nature breaching method. For example, that breaching method which replaced what nature communicates with black people as white survives and keeps rolls with it. Keeps it when people note it, they pretend it's their opinion, it's theory. Not legitimately. But two, tactically delusions are out too, so they don't understand. And while as the natures, that self-value rules with the courts showing they need to hide life progression. And with the police forms, work criminal enterprises and private ones at the same time. They need to hide uses of their own differences and other people's differences past. How they're doing it now, only capable of it as they're shown and maintained and to calm. As systems tactile terrier from that system that shows us the value of seasons to come before they even get here. A system that shows us the past to an extent. A system that shows us we know an extent that is true always now as itself, as that which is being generated, that no one generated it except for itself. That is nothing else, but it is all things anyway. But no thing is its complete identity. Everything has a semi-nature relationship to it. English was revealed to be taught this way, appreciating how the sciences share this identity and where and how they appear not to and discern have different identities. That comes with demonstration / S for the same thing. And about hyper-additional nature. About the hyper-additional nature it is. That identity of value / value progression that we know generated all things. We just don't know the extent of it. And if people deny that and want to debate it, their nature debate and their debate itself is going to contain quality aspects of nature with demonstrations of the same thing. Doxing. To the ancient way before criminal foreign influences / hypercriminal foreign influences, with the syntax of the names of the people of the sciences and of exceptions, as the human species body of individual bodies, now through systems tactically ulterior from the one that is generating all group differences. Now there are also criminal foreign influences slash hypercriminal foreign influences generating differences too, but it hides behind and through that. There are collusions with the counters to criminal enterprises and terrorists that have stayed, where and how they run into high live aggressions at campuses, including medical campuses on a mass scale. They're putting fake and changed audio and video there with the mental health care side as their personal and professionally role involved with the family members of judges and prosecutors and people on off in conjunctive to the state corrections offices and judicial branch offices of Connecticut, with the names involved interstates with the World Trade Center attack in New York, New York, Manhattan, New York, New York, Manhattan, New York, and with Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. has a number of people, a number of ways tied to a Ray Kaloa, Joe DeMauro, Kerr family, and others along Route 3 tied to them and conjunctions to it, like the state judicial branch offices, who have roles with the Scalora family, with the Saudi attackers, and the former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and people with the Wethersfield police named Joe DeMauro, and Eric Mendez, and his brother, involved with falsified police reports, identity thefts, and frauds with the Wethersfield Police Department, putting fake things in databases, also grouped with the courts involved and their family members. At the same time, with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and a whole bunch of different countries next to the campuses. A Delafair family would tell you, no, and people, what's his name? A guy, Dina Velas. I barely know him. Through others, that tied to my neighbors, involved with a Delafair family and a Splatter family, have some probate court judges, and they had other intimate ties. And their roles with the Delafair and a Kerr family also with the judges and the state judicial branch officers, also with wire crimes of Wethersfield police and with Wethersfield Pizza House, right near the state judicial branch offices. They have roles with identity theft, fraud, slanders, with a I forgot his name, a Steven Stocko. It attached me to fake ties, fake niches of ties to him and his wife, and people tied to him and his educators at Central Connecticut State University and at Wethersfield campuses, and his neighbors involved with some body dumping spots, untimely deaths, and child abusers, leaders of kids. In other words, and I never saw Maria Vazino on a campus in my life. A Mark Violet was influenced to repeat his name to me, and a Maria Vazino's name to me. Maria Vazino and Joshua Julian are one of the ones involved with more people, like with a Bob Chase, with whiting forensics too, with digital crimes and wire crimes with them, falsified police reports rolls with them, and with sexual and medical offenders further with a principal upskirt nature. So it's also to how they are conjunctive to the state judicial branch offices and their rules with 2 Route Highway, with a bunch of names out 2 Route Highway and conjunctive to it, and which is like in conjunctive to that, like the Burlington Turnpike in Hangdog Lane, has roles with people at next to and conjunctive to the state judicial branch offices, who have also been planting evidences at and next to the news locations that have identity theft, fraud, slanders with interbranch at the same time. They have predicate acts with facts methods and sequence shifts where they know that people communicate. The breaching method showed them that they communicated other than they pretended. And for our founders, they have self-value roles with our uses of the words of our founders, leaving out and replacing what they communicated about James Madison, his plan, and their use of it, how they forced George Washington to agree to help them to use that plan and to counter extort the rest of the founders to force them to be. And how and why they had to leave slavery entrenched. We were supposed to understand this and explain it for them. Because they didn't have free speech. They communicated, they declassified for us to know this. Nature itself shows us this. Black pupils. So things that are really easy to do, like read, they're complicating, they're attaching to every subject influences, like they're a psychopath with calmness and with aggression and with the difference of it. In other words, they have people that have armies, militaries, that countries A through C. People are just going to sacrifice their bodies. They have to pretend they care for that. The breaching method shows them that. They have to pretend not to realize that they're not pretending. So they have to be, syntax styles, natures. I can't defend that and afford to be. People short words. They needed word in other words. Especially these rat holes with the doctors of psychiatry with badges involved with the military, with the World Trade Center predicate acts, and the investigators of it who had collusions at Harvard Hospital and with the departments of the campuses. A whole bunch of people at the departments at Central Connecticut State University involved with predicate acts with judges and prosecutors speaking fake things in databases with their sources as collusions, also with overt criminal enterprises, even when they're not in the cases, and private ones originally and still, Black pupils. We will attend correctly here and unabridged at A through Z who disbelieves. Get them on paper, one name and sequence, please. You guys are hurting the kids because your roles with the names next to the campuses recorded. A DeMorrow family and their neighbors increasingly have roles with a family of a Kevin Harris. I never had a word of conversation with a Kevin Harris. They pretended lies with others I don't even know at Quinnipiac University with a Fred Grisey, and other with retired police chiefs and born in domestic medical families and a Leahy family, and involved with a Brian Silver too, with the courts involved with the people at Quinnipiac University, with identity theft, fraud, slanders, attached me fake ties, fake niches, ties to themselves and to others, and having things recorded like someone punching me, someone attacking me at Quinnipiac University years ago. Has something to do with the people involved with the World Trade Center attack and proven child abusers, leaders of kids years apart. And Kevin Harris also had roles with the daughter of a Mr. Murphy, who has roles with people people with the intelligence community with Korea, involved with people at Harvard Hospital too, with the military next to the Capitol, involved putting fake ties, fake niches of ties between kids that don't even have classes together, and lying about what they think about those other people and about themselves. These are people from other areas that sought me out to make these confessions about their rules with the family, with the KKK, Confederate black theme, and next to the campuses, intercities, with the houses near me, involved with them, with digital crimes like with this Joshua Julian on the Facebook page of the principal upskirt nature when I caught them first, when the campus was brought up to me, and people involved with it further. As ones involved with the World Trade Center attack, too, they pretended fake conversations with me with WFSB, as WFSB, and with their sources, including the three branches of government and the foreign countries at the same time, and their family members with and as those next to the campuses. A guy, Dan Avellis, will tell you he was influenced to make confessions, to have syntax with me regarding his roles with New Britain Avenue and Hartford and Wethersfield, Rocky Hill and Wethersfield and Hartford. In Hartford, they're and one of the ones with the FBI and Hartford courts. And the FBI needs defending capacities involved with predicate acts with the courts too. At crime scenes. They said it has something to do with how there are two parallel New Britain Avenues at Hartford. and they are right next to each other and both named New Britain Avenue. These are also people with New Britain Avenue, with a DeMorrow family, like Collusion family, has something, and a whole bunch of people with a O'Brien family. They can record, express, demonstrate, confirm, and with police forms tied to them. I don't know all their names. One of them names is Dylan. Never had a word of conversation with him. He's one of the ones involved with nonverbal confirmations of his roles with predicate acts in my street and with names that planted evidence on all sides of my house and digitally. They have the Facebook pages of the principal obscure nature, his campus, involved with this Joshua Julian, involved with people that live near me, involved further with their extended family members, with sexual medical offenders of kids, and police forging and switching names and making confessions about their roles, putting falsified police reports, but preventing writing. These are people increasingly involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, his co-defendants, their family members, and their neighbors, who also have crimes with sexual and medical offenders of kids recorded, and with the people and as names involved, and next to Fox Connecticut News, next to WFSB Channel 3 News in Connecticut, and next to WTNH is the FBI itself, and their sources are all along from the spots in Old Wethersfield, where George Washington had to come to counter-extort, but leave slavery entrenched northern colonies and southern colonies roles now. Because our founders only had strength to force at key locations in more than 13 colonies. People countered, extorted, and forced to then defend themselves from internationally monitored conversations, internationally companies, overt criminal enterprises, private one. They had no clue, they had no help unless they would be a unity. Northern colonies and 13 colonies. And the narratives regarding how they unfolded, they had to hide their roles with James Madison's plan. Otherwise, the breaching method would have sensed them. They had to pretend it on all other things. In other words, it wasn't about a tea tax while slavery was entrenched northern colonies and southern colonies. There's things worse than the tea tax causing problems, people. Here, each book has lies. Who disbelieves? They have people jumping into our comments to bring our algorithm down, to change it. There are all kinds of identity theft, fraud, slanders. Also, the CIA has roles with demonstrably. We're going to go into this because you guys won't respond for the Wethersfield Police and the courts, like the New Britain Superior Court and the Hartford Court. They have an officer Hunter involved with them too, with the names on Central Connecticut State University involved. Also with Secret Service, state police, forensics names through since I was a kid. Increasingly, New Britain's campuses have roles with intercities campuses and adults and kids at the same time, with differences, racketeering growth, and a method with the overt criminal enterprise bribe. One of the differences of guilt with it, where people don't even know each other, putting fake nature ties between kids. Then they just repeat fake things. All truths that they repeat, they have to hide with how they use the truth for lie, how it's actually recorded. Collusion /S with the worst natures and methods of crimes. The people pretending to be against crimes. Black pupils. They cannot see the whites of eyes. Don't let them shoot. Don't let them pretend we're defended, though. We don't have defense until we have facts, human nature, sciences, and honesty, and the Constitution unabridged, and in our founders' names, as James Madison, as the white. In other words, get them onto paper, one's name and sequence. There are only three branches of government. Don't pretend you don't realize that they could be caught clear as day, involved with predicate acts of facts method. Increasingly, educators of a Joe DeMorrow have roles with identity theft, fraud, slanders with them, sequence shifts, predicate acts, wire crimes with the Wethersfield wire crime methods. And he has a cousin named Joe DeMorrow, also at Central Connecticut State University, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, planting evidence is fake ties, fake natures of ties to me, with females of the intelligence and foreign countries, involved males and females sickly distinctly with whiting forensics names, and people involved with child abusers, leaders of kids, first forced years apart, that they had time collusions with, as names also next is Hartford Hospital, with a Tomorrow's Market and an Ilo's Kitchen and a Miami family house involved with overt criminal enterprises, private ones with the names Intercampuses, and next to that Hartford Hospital where they run into high line progressions there. Increasingly, they have roles of people at UConn with foreign and domestic military, all kinds of delusions too with psychiatry. We need to get them on paper, one name and sequence. Also, these are people with the hospitals interstates and intelligence roles with those intelligence databases. They have to hide how they're putting fake and change transcripts. Fake ties to people that weren't at all. Behold, they're forging doctors' names as doctors to put all fake transcripts with other doctors too. The ones that have roles with the neighbors of people, and since they were kids, their kids were in the same group, but they never even saw each other. But they were influencing people to plant fake ties and fake natures of ties and federal evidence crimes with the area. Uses of ground location differences. All kinds of investigations. Investigators recording themselves being used criminally for an influence, tactically delusions wrought, and pretending other at the same time. Black people. Get me off of fake conversations with Channel 3 News about the World Trade Center attack. Increasingly, have people involved with the state police and with the FBI, involved with people that went to my campuses I didn't have grades classes with, like a Joe DeMauro and a Mike Kerr. They tried to make a fake exception with a Mr. Abruzzi with a Joe DeMauro, and that's increasingly with people at Central Connecticut State University, involved with some sexual and medical offenders of kids with the FBI and foreign and domestic military and their family members pretending passions and emotions and using phishing for what people say online to cover up what came first. These are people with sequenceships with the courts and next to the World Trade Center the day of the attack. So get them on paper, one name and sequence, and get me off the fake conversations with the Connecticut News locations and their sources. It was WTNH sources and intelligence next to Fox Connecticut News and next to and at WFSB, Connecticut Channel 3 News. These are all people recording, confessing, demonstrating, confirming. They have Gail King and intimate ties with her, involved with the departments of Central Connecticut State University, with the deans and their kids too, as one of the leaders of the kids further involved with child abusers, leaders of kids, and their kids. And the differences of their kids abused or other kids abused. That's also being used. A whole bunch of countries at the same time involved with them. These are also people increasingly with the spots next to where the Wethersfield Police Department is now, who have roles planting evidences out next to Hartford Hospital, next to New Britain's Central Connecticut State University. Also Hartford Hospital, same ones. Mike Violet have all kinds of roles next to Hartford Hospital with names on the sides of and at Central Connecticut State University in UConn, and involved with their educators too. I never had a class with Mike Violet. They're putting predicate acts with facts and databases, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me, with people at the state capitol with this name O'Brien. Never seen them together. They sought me out to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm collusions with them with that, and with the name with people named Cololo next to Trinity College with them. A whole bunch of people next to Trinity College also with the name Aiello, with these people with the name DeMauro. Planting evidences has something to do with their roles all along Route 3, and people that planted lies behind my back to my teachers. In other words, like my science teachers, distinctly from my English teachers. Then they put John DeMauro and a Christine Bedard in my cooking class. The second time I took a cooking class, increasingly, and the first time and second time I took a cooking class, both times people that had been involved with planting evidences that aren't even from my area, with the names on all sides of my house, are the people that were put in the cooking class. And with people that with the New Britain Superior Court is increasingly involved with the two people with the two times I had a cooking class and their roles with Elm Streets and Wethersfield and Rocky Hill and their conjunctions to Route 3. Like the state judicial branch office is also conjunct to Route 3 and conjunctions to that. It's three ways manifest like that because there are criminally foreign influenced uses of them. there are other names involved in other groups, including criminal enterprises and private ones at the same time. That's what they recorded involved with this. Then they want to pretend they can speak for law or that others can't speak for law. We just look at other acts, predicate acts, and acting tied to it. Please get them on paper, one name and sequence.